Feeling the need for change is at the heart of your ability to make it happen. I'm Vivian Carrasco, and I'd like to welcome you to Turning Inward. I am your creative midwife, your teacher, and host of this podcast. Together, we're going to navigate the interior life by unearthing your personal truth, insight, and your inner knowing. In 2 words, this is your inner work. Hello, lovelies. I'm so happy to be with you today. And I have the absolute funnest idea for an episode. So this is, I don't know how to say this. I'm a book addict. It is my last vice other than sugar, which is like crack. And David said for me not to say crack because it's not like crack, but science says sugar is like crack. So I'm eternally trying to give up sugar. I am not trying to give up books. I get really super excited when my Amazon Prime box is sitting in front of my door with the latest and greatest. And even though I read tons of books, I'm not going to tell you how many I get a week, but I love books. I have only done 2 book clubs. And one you can actually listen to as part of previous episodes, which was a whole series. But I've never highlighted or used the podcast to sort of tell you and experience a book with you. And that's what I want to do with this. So Kyle Cease wrote a book called I Hope I Screw This Up. He's a transformational comic. And you can learn more about him by Googling Kyle, Kyle, Cease. Use your Googler, find him, listen to him, laugh with him. And Lamont said in her TED Talk recently that laughter is carbonated holiness. And I wholeheartedly agree. You can't laugh and be angry. You can't laugh and be sad at the same time. It is physically impossible. You can get sad again after you laugh, but when you're laughing, you're free. So today I want to share this book with you and my experience of this book. It's just, I don't even know where to start. It's amazing. I have completely tabbed it out and I have highlights that I'm going to share with you today. But I wanted to say that this is a great resource for you if you're giving birth to a new vision of yourself, a new version of yourself. And Kyle and I will both tell you there's absolutely no way to screw this up. So the key nugget that Kyle talks about in his book and I talk about in my teachings is you have to let go. You have to let go to get bigger and more better. And there will be labor pains. But you can walk through the threshold. You can stand in front of that door between you and the new vision of you, the better you, the bigger you, the more confident you, and walk right through it. So one of the quotes that I wrote down about Kyle is, life wants to expand. So he says, life is a playground. It's not a multiple choice exam. I hear my clients all the time. I'm not sure if I'm getting this right. I'm not exactly sure how to do this. It's a playground. It is play. It's not multiple choice. Even though we grew up in a school that probably taught us to do multiple choice. But as you're moving into a new way of being, on page 6, I'm going to bounce around a lot in here. And this is in case there's already a paperback by the time this comes out, this is the hardcover, I guess it's called. So on page 6, he says, if you want to go deeper, ask what is trying to express itself through me. So this was just released in May of 2017, so it is literally hot off the shelf. And I just have to read to you the beginning of chapter 1. Start reading here. That's the title. Start reading here. And he starts with, so here's the deal. I'm scared shitless right now. I'm 2 sentences into a 60,000 word book that I think I need to write because my manager, Norm, says my career won't really take off until I have a book. And it goes on and on and on. And the whole time you're reading the book, he's talking to you, asking you to listen from the depth of your soul so that you can watch your story unfold. He actually takes you through the process to turn inward and let the outside fall into place. I love to say that nothing has to change for everything to be different. And you know that I believe that the full and complete responsibility of what you want lies within you first. So the metaphor that Kyle uses about this threshold is that you're standing on an iceberg. And I'm actually going to turn to that page right now. You're standing on an iceberg, which is a protective state. And as your awareness grows, you step off of the iceberg onto land. And this is just beautiful. He says that sadness is what happens when you keep trying to grab at the iceberg. It's floating away now. It was part of you for 20 years or more. It's leaving. Just becoming aware that you are bigger than that false identity causes the iceberg to leave. There's nothing to do to get rid of it. It will go away on its own. Your tears are representing the death of the old story, and you're saying goodbye to your old, unstable life on that iceberg. So I loved this metaphor of what it's like to give birth to a new vision of yourself. And it's scary, but the sadness only comes in when you reach for what's dying. So the process for this new way of being is to choose a connection with yourself first. So you have to get out of your own way by incorporating stillness, listening, and noticing the guidance that lives within you. It's compelling you into a new way of being towards love instead of fear. And this is what I share with you. That was my pivotal transformation way back when. The thing that started all of this, that insight in October of 2013, is that I had forgotten my way of being. And I had started to just move away from what I had feared. And when somebody asked me, why don't you just do what you did before to get where you were? I realized that that doing that I did was that I moved towards love. And that is a very, very different direction to move through in life. So I made a note of page 238. So on 238, he says, until we look inward, we will demand to be ruled by everything external to ourselves. We've trained ourselves to give away our power to whatever we can find outside of ourselves. We worship people, money, careers, astrology, ideologies, or fears, and on and on and on. But we rarely worship ourselves. And until we do this, we will never be free. Isn't that beautiful? So he's encouraging you. These are his exact words. Get excited about you. Capital Y-O-U. Because the idea came from you. You are the source of the idea. Don't get excited about the idea. Get excited about you. Awesomeness. What else? So I wrote down the action steps for giving birth to this new way of being. And the first is to take responsibility by turning inward, like I just mentioned. The second one is to break your own rules. And I love this one. We set the rules based on what culture told us, based on what society told us, based on what's expected of us. So on page 7, Kyle says, anyone who has made a true impact on this planet at one point had to step out of the expectation of the people around them and listen to an inner calling that moved them into a place of originality, beyond what they had done before. How beautiful is that? So giving birth to a new vision of yourself and knowing that you can't screw this up is first and foremost taking responsibility for you, getting excited about you, turning inward. And then the second one is to break your own rules. And that's really simple, but difficult. So a rule I think that I've broken recently, and I've been really actively training myself to break rules. Like, for instance, I wore mismatching socks with shoes that weren't supposed to have socks, just to experience the look of people looking at me like, what the heck is wrong with her? Because it's really, it's in my nature to want to be accepted and revered by absolutely everyone. And that is just not reality. There are going to be critics and there are going to be people who don't like me. And my motto is love me or leave me. But make a choice on whether you align with what I teach and what I like, or if it's not for you. That's totally cool. There's someone out there that is teaching exactly what you need to hear. And if I'm not that person, then you need to find that person. The third process that I wrote down, or the third step that really stepped out at me. Oh, this is a good one. So accept pain as learning. Okay, this is what he says exactly. I highlighted it. I know I have to write this book because my experience has shown me that if I'm in this much pain, then there's something really important that I need to learn. I've had many times when I really feel like bailing on something that I was afraid of, but when I stuck with it, it caused me to grow internally and turned out to be the greatest decision I ever made. I know that as I stay in the room and begin to just accept all these fears and emotions, I'll begin to transcend my addiction to, quote, doing a good job and move into a version of myself that is freer than I've ever been. So know that your pain is learning. It's the same sort of bat signal that your body does. It's to bring attention. So if there's pain in, I don't know, my neck, then that means I need to pay attention to my posture. If there's a big welt from a bug bite, I need to pay attention and heal that. And I think that's the same thing with everything we go through. We can't skip the pain. We can stop the suffering, but we can't skip the pain because the pain is there to teach us. It is to draw our attention to something that needs to be healed. Ooh. So then I skipped over to page 178, which is an actual tool. Okay, so he talks about identifying where you are. You can't really get somewhere else unless you know where you are. So in the first stage of this illusion that we're caught in, which he calls being like a baby chick still in a shell, this is the stage where you believe that your entire life is your circumstances and your past story. When you're in the shell, you are only your accomplishments and you are only your worthiness. And you are totally dependent on what other people think of you. None of you are in that stage. You would not be in that stage if you're listening to this podcast, because you've already recognized that the outside isn't going to give you what you're looking for, and you've begun to turn your attention inward. I'm proud of you. It takes enormous courage to do that, because you're going against everything that you've been taught. Whether it's the white picket fence, the 2 kids, the dog, the gated community, the brands, the cars, the shoes, the body, the hair, whatever it is, you know that that is not what is going to give you the most meaning and fulfillment. And you're turning inward to your experience versus your things. So the second stage that Kyle talks about is when you start to crack the shell and you're actually ready to start hatching. My hunch is this might be where you are. This is where maybe something happened that broke your story and a little bit of that illusion dissolved for a second. You caught a glimpse that there's something more outside of your story, but the crack is still really scary. If your shell didn't already have a crack, this book would just make you angry because your mind would feel threatened. He's like so insightful. The ego will fight for its life. Trust me. So what this book is doing is opening the crack a bit more. It's giving you and me permission to trust that instinct in us that knows there's something beyond what we've seen. This hunch maybe that you have, that there's more to this. So then the third stage that Kyle talks about is getting outside of the shell. This is really interesting. I love the metaphor he used here. You know you're out of the shell if you can look at an illusion of your identity and understand that it's almost like a character in a video game. And you're the one playing the game. The stage is the process of stepping outside of your story and realizing that nothing in this world can actually hurt you. It can only hurt the illusion that your mind has created of you. As you leave the shell, you start moving from your head to your heart. I love this. Don't I talk about that 12-inch journey all the time? Kyle and I are like virtual besties. It's amazing. I love this book. You have to buy this book. You have to read this book. And then you and I have to talk about this book. This is a good one. Does he have four stages? Nope. There's only 3 stages. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So then on page 220, I wrote down, I have to tell you something about that. Let me see. What I highlighted was, so our first job is to stop disqualifying the things that our hearts are pulling us toward. We're going to enter a space of allowing every single thing that comes up, externally and internally. We're going to be in a space of letting ourselves feel free, feel what we need to feel, hear what we need to hear, and create what we need to create to grow into our next stage of expansion. We can't control the thoughts and ideas that come up, but we can allow ourselves to go with them and let them guide us. And then I'll jump down about a little bit. This is more about learning how to go with the flow and starting to move your awareness into a place that can see higher level possibilities than you might be used to. Jules Golden. One of the specific outcomes that people that work with me is they want to be able to see more of what's possible. They want to feel like they have more choices in front of them. And expanding your awareness gives you that. And then I jump over, I made a note about page 240. So he says on page 240, everything that goes wrong in your life is your opportunity to improvise and co-create your masterpiece with the universe. So he says it literally starts with you. I didn't write this book in order to create a bunch of followers. I wrote this book for my expansion, and I'm wide open to the idea that my expansion is giving you permission to access your expansion. I can't believe that all of this unfolded for me. I'm taking a second and feeling so proud of myself and in awe of what I have learned and embodied through writing this book. I can't believe there was a time when I considered bailing on this. I can't believe I was so scared. I can't believe this new awareness has shown up for me simply by staying in the room. When you stay with your discomfort, with your sadness, and you allow it to be, you grow beyond it. This dude is awesome. So this co-creation, there's so much more in this book, but those were the highlights. Those were the little tools that I wanted to share with you. And then you just sort of rinse, lather, and repeat because nature never ends. One of the interesting conversations I've had recently is this idea of, aren't I done yet? Like, haven't I learned enough, done enough to grow? No, you're a human. You will always unfold and always evolve. Now, for some, they just kind of move at a really slow pace because it happens naturally with age. Just like an acorn will become a tree, your soul will unfold, your way of being will expand just because it's nature. But sometimes we have something that's there to agitate it. Like a piece of sand agitates inside of a shell and becomes a pearl. Sometimes we have pain, and that pain causes learning. And that learning drops the illusion that you have and lets you move through the threshold, through the doorway, and step into your new way of being. So giving birth to a new vision of yourself, you can't screw it up. And Kyle Cease, the transformational comic, Google him, YouTube him, find him. He's got lots and lots to share. There was so much that I couldn't do it justice. I just want you to know that he's out there and he's got lots of tools for you and lots of insight. And I hope you enjoy it. Talk to you soon. Love, love, love. Bye. If something needs to change and you don't quite know what it is yet, tune in and turn inward. I host an online learning community where we can figure it out together. It feels like a little family, and it's a place where you can be supported and offer support, because togetherness sparks change. Visit my digital home at viviancarrasco.com to learn more.